Welcome, another episode, Dr. James Beckett, Sports Card Insights. Here with Rich Klein, we're going to talk about 1968 Topps baseball. Not just the Topps products from that year, especially the flagship, the main set that was put out that Rich remembers. Rich remembers from its origin. I actually remember in hindsight. I didn't pick up on that until that was one of my dark years of not really collecting. But first, thanks to the sponsors, Topps, Panini, and Upper Deck, especially Topps for making that very interesting set possible. Heritage Auctions, Huggins and Scott Auctions, Mike Stadium Sports Cards, Burbank Sports Cards. I know Rob and Ryan Vera sell a bunch of 68 Topps as well as everything else. ComC, same to them. Plenty of 68 Topps there. And Beckett Media, Beckett Grading, Beckett Authentication. So, Rich, I think you've told me this was one of your first sets that you collected because you're of that.
I actually really started collecting cards. And if you're going to collect a series, you can't do much better than the 68 third series. You have a Johnny Bench rookie. At the time, that wasn't much. It was just a two-player card. Oh, he's going to be the next Hall of Famer, but you heard that a lot even in 68. You have Mickey Mantle. You have Carl Yastrzemski. You have Orlando Cepeda. It seems like every time you turn around, there's another great player in that series. They overloaded that series with great players.
Are you saying
Orlando Cepeda?
Are you saying you started collecting in the third series fortuitously? Yes. And that was what, April or May?
The third.
What time of year was that? Was that toward the end of school?
Yeah, towards the end of school. I think when the weather got nicer and you could start playing outside, when you could start playing outside and flipping with your friends and doing that, lunchtime at school.
Okay,
so I didn't start until March or April. I missed, the January, February.
Yeah. But still, none of the series in 68 Topps are that much tougher than the others from what I've seen. The high numbers slightly tougher.
Harder.
Yeah.
I mean, if you go to a show, you're not going to find a ton of the last two series compared to the first five. I mean, you'll find you won't have any trouble finding them. They'll just be more difficult. I think that's one reason the Superstars card 490 and the Manager's Green 480 are tougher cards, because they're so popular, because they are slightly tougher. Plus, they're Superstars. You can't really complain. You have a card with Mays, you have a card with Mantle, and you have Harmon Killebrew.
Right.
A lot of homers on one card.
That's a lot of homers on one card. What? Let's see. What do you take of the fact that there's two different spackle border treatments that year? That there were two different places or two different graphic designers, or
that was something fascinating, because I remember going with my father into our gas station. And they were also the local mechanic. And the guy had thumbtacked a 68 card of Tommy John, number 72, to the wall. And not only had I never seen it before, the design, the spackle was different. It's like, I've never seen this before. So I guess even when I was 7 years old, I understood, hey, I've never seen that before.
You think it was fake? You think it was counterfeit?
You could tell it was real. It was just that, what was this design? Why did it look so different?
I don't know why. I mean, that seems like, again, Topps was the only game in town. They had nobody nipping at their heels. And so, but, I wonder if they got any letters of gee, why are these so different? Or maybe people didn't notice. But I've always felt that the 68 Topps design, again, Rich, you're probably going to push back on this, but I thought it was a big drop off from 67.
Well, 67 is my favorite set of the 60s. Right. So in retrospect, I agree with you.
Okay.
But when you're 7 years old and 8 years old, you don't worry about that. You just think, oh, these are baseball cards. They're cool.
It is what it is.
And I'm watching this guy. Oh, and I have his card. I feel a connection. In those days, we don't have computers where we can, look up all the numbers and all the stats of everybody instantaneously while we're watching a game. We had actually have physical ways of learning, about our players. And 68 Topps, I love the quizzes on the back. Yeah. And I think I blame the quizzes on the back for my trivia fascination too.
Really? That's interesting. So you think, well, that was a formative experience for you. You're of a very impressionable age, and the trivia answers were on other players' cards, right?
Correct.
So you couldn't get the answer.
Every card has a back, who led the 1967 Mets in batting average.
I know, but the answer wasn't upside down on the same card. You had to find another card. Oh, it was? Okay. Well, one of the years, I think they made you get other cards to find the answer. But anyway, well, that's interesting. Supposedly, I think you told me this, that was the last year they did penny packs.
They did what?
Penny packs. The 1 cent packs.
Yes, they did. That was me who told you.
That was you?
No, I don't think it was me. It was probably Jasperson.
Okay, but anyway, so if it is, I wonder why they cut it off, although a penny's not worth anything anymore. Even in 68, it maybe wasn't worth very much. Maybe, a lot of labor going into the penny pack still had gum. There's still a wrapper.
It could have even been at that point. It could have even started being a money loser for them. And
It
why
could have been a loser,
something that you're going to lose money?
They're just doing it because they've always done it. Yeah. At any rate, the other thing that we know that other listeners might not know is that, if for those who collect wrappers, the penny wrappers are generally a lot tougher than the nickel wrappers. I don't remember penny packs in 68. They very well could be, depending where you were. I know the local stationery store from down the street from me was actually a Topps test place because I got the 68 Topps poster there. Yeah, I don't like posters.
And that's kind of wild that memory that I should have just bought everything they had whenever they had a new product, because then I'd have all those I bought the 68 Topps plaques there too at that store.
You should have kept the wrappers. You should have kept the boxes. You should have probably not opened anything, what's the fun in that? I mean, nobody was that prescient, I don't think. Yeah. What, the price guide treatment of 68 Topps has basically just closely paralleled Nolan Ryan, don't you think?
Yeah. In fact, Nolan Ryan exploded in like 89 when at the age of 42, he goes to down here to our Dallas area, and all of a sudden has the final leg of his career down here. And he's doing things at age 42 that people are saying, oh my, wait a second.
Well, he was the most amazing no-hit pitcher of all time. I don't know that. I mean, you can't say records could never be broken because the game is changing, but when he was on, he was apparently unhittable.
Let's put it this way. If you came up at the age of 21 and you struck out 300 batters a year for 19 years, there's still 26 strikeouts away from Nolan Ryan. And that's presuming you don't need to lose a year to Tommy John surgery.
Yeah, gosh, that's one of the things that comes up when, for those, now that we're going to be doing more virtual connection within the industry, and I guess you can take a photo of something, but back in the day, the 70s, very early 80s, when, and it wouldn't be because of Ryan necessarily, but if people said, hey, I've got a 68 Topps set, what's it worth? It all depends on the 68 Topps Ryan Koosman rookie card. And if you, as you've said, if you put that in a top loader and put it on top of the 800 count box or whatever it be in, and look at it and scrutinize it, that's the determinant right there. I mean, at a glance. So if somebody called you on the phone and said, what's my 68 Topps set worth? The answer could be wildly off depending on the shape of that one card. I mean, the bench pales in comparison to it. I think the bench may even be a double print. But
it
Ryan,
is.
very tough. They're not tough. It's just, yeah.
Bruce Yako had tons of the 68 Johnny Bench card.
Yeah.
When people would go up to his house to buy cards, he had benches up the wazoo. It was a cheap card. A lot of times people bought them from him in quantity.
Up the wazoo is appropriate for Bruce Yako because apparently he had cards stacked to the rafters, even in his bathrooms. I met Bruce Yako. Cards
in his oven.
Yeah, I met Bruce, but I never got to his house. But people had, that would have been interesting. A guy, I mean, just think what the value of the stuff he had at the time was pretty amazing.
Well, Bruce was fascinating. He liked selling cards because to really finance his real hobby, which is Broadway.
Yeah. But, again, who knew in those days? It's just hard to believe. Let's any other comments? Cause I've got one more thing. Anything else you want to do?
68, it got a couple variations. It's got the Milton, we're talking about Nolan Ryan. It's got a Milton Bradley Nolan Ryan. It's got a Venezuelan Nolan Ryan. It's got an OPG Nolan Ryan. You could spend a good deal of capital just doing the Nolan Ryan group from 68.
Just finding them would be tough. Okay, so last thing here. One of the best examples of the phenomenon of team collecting is the voracious appetite that my Detroit area friends have for Tigers cards in 68. They'd waited a long time. Again, you'd think they would channel that into 69, celebrating the 68 World Championship, but back in the day, they were all over this. I mean, when I looked at my 68 Topps, all the Tigers were gone if you just priced them reasonably. Did you have that same experience in your area?
Yes. And what's interesting is even today, the price guide has a spike for anybody in the 68 Tigers, especially the last series. You have the Tigers team. You have Gates Brown. You have, I believe, Mayo Smith is a high number. Bill Freehan, 470 is a very popular card. Even Dick Trzaskowski, I think, is number 488 is a good card. I mean, Joe Sparma, I think Rob Beerus says Joe Sparmas is tough of a card for him, or used to be as tough a card for him as any card in the set. I think Joe Sparmas number 505. Yeah. You know, that's to me, that's the proof of the last two series being more difficult.
Mickey Lolich is like 4th series?
He's 5th series.
5th. Is he 414? What is he?
Yeah, he's like 414. And that was, and when I grew up, as I said, the 3 series I basically collected in 68 were 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Yeah. I know the rest of the set now, and I know the rest of the set because I know those 3 series so well that all the other series surrounding them, it's like, okay, the high numbers, I know they're really good, and the low numbers, I know they're not as good, but I know that they had a lot of really good players in them. They have your Mays, they have your Aaron, they have your Clemente in the first 2 series. They have a Tom Seaver and a Rodney Klein Carew in the first 2 series. So a lot of the superstars also got done early that year.
Okay, Rich, last question. Put you on the spot. Who is more undervalued as a Tiger, 68, Mickey Lolich or Bill Freehan?
Lolich is more undervalued. He won 3 games and was the MVP of the series. And even though the Freehan card is slightly tougher, Lolich, I think, and both Lolich and Freehan could be like one-shot Hall of Famers.
I'm saying, who's closer to the Hall of Fame? I think Freehan.
Freehan probably
was the dominant catcher in the American League through most of the late 60s.
Yeah, but
Lolich rose to the occasion.
If you think Thurman Munson's a Hall of Famer, then Bill Freehan probably is a Hall of Famer too.
Well, that's there again. Let's end on the high note of saying that when you compare to the other lesser Hall of Famers, there's a lot of people get in. I think there could be. I mean, I'm not in favor of putting him in the Hall of Fame, but we can still appreciate what an outstanding player those guys were. They were amazing, and like I said, they rose to the occasion. And the World Championships that the Tigers garnered in 1968 was dancing in the streets for my Tiger
with
friends.
Freehan was like 3rd and 2nd in MVP voting in 67 and 68, which tells you what he was really.
That's worth a lot. That's very impressive. That's very impressive. Well, thanks, listeners. Thanks, Rich. I'll be back again tomorrow with another episode. Hope you had some fond memories, as Rich and I did, about 68 Topps, another one of the classic top sets from our youth.